Today I'm reviewing the HEDD Audio HEDDphone D1. These headphones are interesting for a few reasons. One of them is that this is the brand's most affordable headphone to date. In addition, we've got a new driver technology. This is a Thin-Ply Carbon Diaphragm, which is a super duper material that's actually been used in everything from Formula One car chassis to NASA's Mars helicopter ingenuity. Wow, let's get into it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. If you're not familiar with HEDD Audio, they are coming out of Berlin in Germany, and these are actually manufactured in Germany, not just designed there and manufactured somewhere else. Hi, China. But these are coming in at a price of $799 US or 699 euros or 599 pounds. So these are marketed as a studio monitor headphone, meaning they should supposedly have a neutral sound signature. We'll get into the sound very shortly. Let's have a look first at the build, and I gotta say, they are quite stylish indeed. I do love this low-key black aesthetic with the matte black finish. They do look somewhat utilitarian, but the build feels really good. They feel like something, German built. If that makes sense. Look, I'm not talking down on Chi-Fi. There's a lot of great Chi-Fi products, but this just feels a little different. Let's look at the headband. It's basically plastic with this matte black finish. On the underside, you've got a really nice, somewhat firm headband, but it's wide and generous in padding. This is an open back headphone, so there are the open backs with a metal grille cover. The yokes are actually plastic, which is a little bit surprising, but it's good because it helps keep the weight down. The weight, by the way, is 350 grams, so they are reasonably lightweight for a full-size headphone, and they are very comfortable. These ear pads are velour, and they are perforated. There's a good amount of adjustment, well, a lot of adjustment. I wear mine right down there, so they should fit even the most massive of heads out there. The connectors are standard 3.5 millimeter, so you can easily swap out the cable if you desire. Speaking of the cable, this is it here. It is a fabric sheathed braided cable, and as far as fabric sheathed cables go, this is a really nice one. It's very supple, very smooth, doesn't have any microphonics, but it is, again, just like the headphones, very utilitarian. It comes with a 3.5 millimeter termination and this 3.5 millimeter to 6.35 millimeter adapter in the box. Unfortunately, there is no modular cable or no 4.4 millimeter balanced cable provided, so if you want to have one of those, you can just swap it out, but you obviously will have to purchase that separately. Anyway, back to the headphones. The clamping force is moderately light, but there's enough there to make them feel very secure on your head, so even when you're moving about, they don't feel like they're going to slip off or fall off. And in terms of comfort, they are fantastic. Like, they have Sennheiser 6XX level comfort. The ear cups do rotate a little bit, and they also pivot up and down, so that helps them conform to the shape of your head. And these are sort of all day long comfort. But let's get into the sound now. I'll start by saying these are super easy to drive. The impedance is just 32 ohms with 100 dB of sensitivity, so you can plug these straight into a portable DAC or DAP, or any basic desktop setup will get you great results with these. Having said that, these do scale up when you feed them better amplification, so if you've got a better source, you will get better results. So HEDD describes the HEDDphone D1 as a transducer with the precision of a studio monitor, but the intimacy of a high-end headphone, and that actually sums these up pretty well. So it feels like they've sort of taken their studio heritage and shrunk it down into something more personal. How more personal can you get than a pair of headphones? Tonally, these are a nice mix between clarity and balance. So the presentation doesn't sound hyped or exaggerated, but it does sound very clean and extremely well controlled. So you get a very sort of reference sense of precision from these without giving up any warmth or comfort in the process. In fact, I'd describe the sound of these as being slightly on the warmer side of purely neutral, which gives, the sound a bit of body, but without introducing any artificial coloration. Let's break it down now, starting with the bass. And yeah, these have got a really impressive bass. It's somewhat of a standout feature. The bass combines that essential depth and authority that you need for an engaging bass with really excellent control throughout the sub bass and the mid or the upper bass. And what you get is a nice low end that delivers heaps of not heaps, but ample weight and satisfying impact as well, but it never gets messy. It always maintains absolute control. It's just a full engaging presentation. It gives you all the goodness of a nice full bass, but without the usual downsides. So there's no bloatiness, there's no bleeding into the mid-range, etc. Some people might prefer a little more power in the bass, but that would compromise the goal of these headphones, which is sort of studio monitor neutrality. And now onto the mid-range, and the mid-range is another strong point of these headphones. You've got a nice balance between clarity and warmth. Remember, I said slightly on the warmer side of neutral. So the mids sound highly resolving and clear, yet they have an essential touch of richness in there. It's certainly not a cold or analytical mid-range. There is a slight warmth, and that ensures naturalness, and it also avoids the sound from becoming thin, which is always a concern when people talk about neutral or studio. They tend to sometimes sound a little bit clinical or analytical, but that's not the case here. These do sound very natural and have somewhat inviting. So vocals and instruments are highly articulate. They have good texture. They have a nice full-bodied presentation that fills the stage nicely, so good note size in there. They've got a nice level of detail in the mid-range. It doesn't sound congested. Like I said, the control of that bass and overall control and resolution is super good, so these don't get congested even during busy or complex passages. And perhaps most importantly, despite being somewhat warm, the timbre of the mid-range is very accurate, which is, of course, what you want for a studio monitor and, what a lot of audiophiles chase as well or desire as well. Let's talk about the treble finally, and the D1 has, it maintains that nice balance in the treble as well. It's neutral and notably smooth. You do get good treble extension and a fairly moderate amount of air. Of course, they are open back, so it's not a sparkly or a brilliant treble presentation, but it doesn't feel confined or dark. And this kind of treble tuning, I think, pays dividends when it comes to texture. Like hi-hats and cymbals sound nice and crisp and realistic, but they never sound thin or splashy, and they're not. It's a non-fatiguing treble as well. The overall control again is superb, so there's no harshness, there's no sibilance. I'd say the only minor point I have with the treble is that some of those highest piano notes can sometimes hit with a little more impact than I would consider ideal, but that's a very small exception in an otherwise excellent treble. Okay, finally, let's talk about the Soundstage and technicalities, and I suspect that a lot of people are super interested primarily in the Soundstage being an open-backed headphone. So you do have nice soundstage dimensions, but I think the major benefit you get, especially in this case, the case of the D1 here, with the open back, is just the sense of naturalness that it gives you. These have really nice imaging and placement within the soundstage, so that allows you to visualize distinct layers in the music, which of course enhances your immersion and engagement. It's also great for gaming if you're into that, but you know, imaging is always great in music as well, just being able to determine the position of each instrument or vocal in the stage. Now, when it comes to detail retrieval, honestly, it is a little bit modest. So I was expecting a bit more considering the price point of these headphones, but you know, that's probably a result of the neutral tuning. So it prioritizes listening comfort and accuracy over micro detail spotlighting. So overall, the level of resolution is excellent, the instrument separation is great, but some of those micro details don't sort of surface like they would on certain other headphones, but admittedly headphones that are more V-shaped or more colored. I hope that makes sense. Now, let's do a couple of comparisons. First of all, I'm going to pull in the Meze Audio 105 AER. The 105 AER is a more affordable headphone. It's coming in at about $400 US. And oops, the bass on the 105 AER is a bit more elevated. Like, both have excellent bass control and definition, but if anything, I'd say the Meze's mid bass sounds a little bit crisper, and that's probably an effect of its lifted treble. So the 105 AER has a brighter tonality. You know, this one is tuned for musicality, where the D1 is tuned for neutrality and accuracy. So the Meze is a little bit brighter, which makes crash cymbals stand out a bit more, provides an edge in perceived clarity as well. That doesn't directly translate into better resolution though. Both headphones perform on a similar level in terms of resolution. The D1 possibly even a bit better. The treble is a bit softer on the D1, so smoother treble on the HEDDphone D1. It does sound legitimately more neutral, whereas the 105 has been sculpted sort of sonically for engagement. Overall, these are both two great headphones though, and arguably both could be used as a studio monitor, but I think the D1 definitely sounds the more honest. And next, let's pull in the Sendy Audio Iva 2. I'm still not sure how to pronounce that name. I'm going to call it the Iva 2. Beautiful headphone, wooden head cups, significantly more heavy, or I should say significantly heavier than the HEDDphone D1, but look at them, they are beautiful. By the way, the cable is in the box, but these come with such a gloriously beautiful cable. But let's talk about the sound. So the Iva 2, $569 compared to, what did I say, $799 for the D1. The Iva 2 has a planar driver, and it is a lot harder to drive. It needs more amplification than the D1. It actually has a reasonably similar sound signature, but the Iva 2's treble has got a bit more energy and a little bit more air. And similar to the Meze 105 AER, that extra treble energy is an intentional tuning to boost clarity rather than maintain the more honest timbre that the HEDDphone D1 has. In terms of soundstage, they are about the same in dimensions, I would say, although the HEDDphone D1 probably has slightly less precise imaging than the Iva 2, but remember the Iva 2 does have a sculpted sound, so it does have a little bit more treble energy, which helps to widen the soundstage a little bit, just like the Meze 105 AER. Also, I just realized I forgot to mention something rather important. Just like the Meze headphones, all the different components of the HEDDphone D1 are serviceable. So if any parts wear down over time or break, you can replace all the individual parts, so that really increases the longevity. So although they are expensive, you can expect to get 5 or even 10, maybe even more years of use out of these headphones. Anyway, so here we are at the end of the review, and I've kept it reasonably objective up until this point, I guess. But let's talk about how I really feel about the HEDDphone D1. Honestly, I didn't fall in love with these at the first listen. Like I said, they are utilitarian. They are designed as a reference studio monitor. But as I started listening, I started to like these more and more. I love the honesty of the sound. I love the control of the sound. These don't try to shout about their performance with hyped treble or boosted bass. They just want accuracy, and they do that really well. But at the same time, you do get that slightly warmer presentation. The bass is deep but always disciplined. The mid-range is full-bodied and articulate, and the treble is smooth and natural. Yes, the detail retrieval is a little touch modest for something at this price point again, but that is a trade-off for the accuracy of the tuning and the timbre. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the HEDDphone D1 is for people who value truth over theatre. So if you're looking for a very accurate, very controlled, but genuinely musical headphone, then these are definitely really, really good, and I like these a lot. And with that said, it's time to wrap it up. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, PAR Family Audiophile style. Hey, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button before you go so you don't miss out on future content. And until next time, I'll see you later.